Hi, and welcome to Duhawks Burning Questions. I'm your host, Josh Larson. Returning to the desk is sports enthusiast Dustin D-Dog Dawson. Dusty, we may just have to make you a permanent co-host.
Thanks, it seems to be so.
Well, on today's show, we have a full slate for you, full slate of questions from you viewers. To ask a question, just tweet at us at Duhawk Burning Questions, and we'll get back to them later in the show. Dusty, let's begin today on the mat with Loras College Wrestling. New head coach T.J. Miller begins his tenure with some optimism. With returning Michael Triplett and Evan Weaver. Dustin, how do you feel the Duhawks are going to do this year on the mat?
Well, I mean, the biggest thing will be the youth of this team, Josh. I mean, as you mentioned, there's only a couple guys returning, and Weaver and Triplett. Triplett obviously made the national tournament last year, and Evan Weaver's coming off ACL surgery. So, I mean, really the biggest thing will be whether the freshmen can really step up for the team. I mean, we look at the roster right here. Clint and Ross Lembeck, the twins from Marion, Iowa, they will be huge to see if they can come around in their first year. And then another guy is Guy Patrone Jr. He's all the way from Harvey, Louisiana, and he was an All-American at Juicet High School in Louisiana. So, I mean, really the biggest thing will just be if they can come around, if they can learn, because, I mean, obviously the level of competition from high school to college is a big difference, so it'll really be if they can continue their growth throughout the season and really help those guys, the upperclassmen, and see if they can make their way back under first-year head coach T.J. Miller.
Well, I think you just mentioned it. T.J. Miller's, being a new coach, you have a brand new system, a brand new group of guys to buy into a new system, and I think with that you're going to have some growing pains, and they're going to keep with the paces, but I think it's still going to be Loras College Wrestling as we know it around here. You know, with the light senior class, they still know what's going on. They're going to lead this group, especially with these young guys coming in, like you mentioned, the Lambeck twins. I think it's going to be a bright year for Loras College Wrestling, and I'm excited for T.J. Miller to be on campus and get this thing rolling.
And especially, I mean, Coach Stewart, he was an outstanding coach. He was here for many years. So I mean, T.J. Miller, he's got big shoes to fill in terms of coming in as a new head coach, but I mean, he's got a great resume, and I think he can really continue this Loras program that really they have built. Because I mean, you look in the past, we've had a lot of guys that have gone on to nationals and have, I mean, really competed with some of the best in the D3 level. So I mean, it'll be crucial to see. But I think really, just in summary, I think it'll just be whether the freshman class can come along and really step up and compete with those upperclassmen and collectively do it as a team.
Yeah, Mr. T.J. Miller does have big shoes to fill, but I think we're gonna take a break here, and when we come on back, we're going to get into NBA questions and that Money Mayweather and Notorious McGregor discussion. So stay right here.
Face-off, Duncan Keith helps out. Rene goes down, top shelf, and the reaction from Patrick Kane. Now they're taking time off the clock. They're precise.
Welcome back. Let's start with questions. We got a question from Irish Fighter 1991. He asked, who's going to win the fight, if ever, between Conor McGregor and Floyd Money Mayweather? Dusty, what do you think?
Well, I mean, Josh, that's a tough question to answer, just because, I mean, if you look at it in different dynamics, if it were a UFC fight, I would take Conor McGregor all the way. But I mean, if it's strictly just a boxing match, I mean, I think I would take Mayweather, because I mean, you think about it, Josh. McGregor, he uses more than just punches. He uses kicks, he uses submissions, and all that different kind of stuff. I mean, you look at it, he's 21-3 in his career, and 18 of those wins have been by technical knockout, 1 submission, and 2 decisions. So I mean, it is apparent that he can knock people out just as evident as Floyd Money Mayweather can. But I think it would solely depend on what type of match you were going to have. If it's solely boxing, I would take Mayweather. But if it's UFC, when anything goes and you can do anything, I would take McGregor. What do you think, Josh?
Honestly, I think I agree with you. It all depends on the fighting style that they're going to go with. If you're going to allow McGregor to use his full skill set, his full slate, he's got an opportunity to really do some damage on Mayweather because he's strictly just not used to that kind of fighting style. But if you're going to limit McGregor and then concede to Mayweather with his fighting style. I think Mayweather has an advantage. But it's a true case of Goliath versus Goliath, and I really don't know if there would ever be enough money on the table for these two to actually get in the ring and have these egos go at it. So if I had to put money on it, just from a pure ass-kicking stance, I would say Conor McGregor every single time, because he just has more tools than Mayweather, and I think in the long run, I think that's what's going to be the difference. So I say go with Notorious.
And I mean, you brought it up earlier. I mean, money would be a huge thing, Josh. I mean, you even think about the Mayweather-Pacquiao fight and how much money it took for them just to fight, and it ended up being a decision that ultimately Floyd Money Mayweather won. But I mean, I'm still like baffled on it whether I would take one of these guys, because I mean, money would obviously play a big part in it, but I don't know, Josh. I just don't know.
Well, I think from a fan standpoint, I don't know if it would live up to the expectations, simply because Mayweather's a very standoffish fighter. He's very selective in his hitting style, and I don't think it would be conducive to the fans to see this kind of fight. But if it ever does happen, we will see. But we'll segue into another question we have from Rip City, Portland asked, who will win the NBA championship this year? Dustin, I know you're an NBA advocate. What do you think?
Well, I think that's just a big of tough a question as the one we just tried to answer. I mean, obviously the two favorites coming in have been Cleveland Cavaliers and the Golden State Warriors, and obviously with the arrival of Kevin Durant to the Golden State Warriors, it makes them a huge favorite. I mean, it's pretty much his entire career. It's been LeBron versus kind of everyone. And I mean, he's been to the NBA Finals, I believe, six or seven out of the last, 6 or 7 straight. So I mean, the biggest thing, Josh, I think it comes down. I think it's those two teams that we see in the NBA Finals, and I think it goes down to exactly what it was last time, Game 7. And I mean, can LeBron do it? I mean, obviously he's not by himself anymore. He's got Kyrie Irving and Kevin Love, but I mean, you got four almost of the top 10 players on the exact same team, Josh. So I mean, I think if I had to put my money down on it, I would take Golden State in 7 against the Cavaliers.
I think I agree with you. The NBA hierarchy is pretty limited, actually. I mean, like you said, the Cavs in the East, they're probably the most complete team in the league in terms of just their overall cohesiveness and how they play as a roster. But you can't overemphasize the firepower that Golden State has and just the amount of points they can put on you in a quick hurry. And I think that's going to weigh on teams over time. And as the season goes, they're going to find their step and stride, and they're going to be a really scary team come playoff time. But you can't forget about teams like the San Antonio Spurs. Mm-hmm. Those teams have been around and tried and true, and Coach Greg Popovich has that team down. Their post Pau Gasol and LaMarcus Aldridge are as good and trusted as they come, and guys like Kawhi Leonard are really going to be problems defensively and matchup nightmares.
And I mean, you look at even on the West side as well. I mean, you look at the Clippers. I mean, they kind of came out of the gates really strong. I think they might even be on top of the Western Conference right now. They've really started out strong with Chris Paul, Blake Griffin, DeAndre Jordan, those type of players. So, I mean, really the big question will be, I think the Cavs get there because I don't really know if there's anyone in the West that can really oust them from the playoffs. But I mean, the Warriors might have a little bit tougher, as you mentioned, the Spurs and the Clippers. And I mean, even you look at the Thunder and Russell Westbrook, who might be the best player in the NBA right now. So it'll really be interesting to see as we move along in the season who's going to be able to get the nod and win the NBA championship.
Well, you just mentioned it. The best player who you believe is Russell Westbrook. We have another question from Shy City Bulls. He asked, who would win the MVP for the NBA this year?
That's a tough question as well, Josh, because I mean there's so many great NBA players. I mean, you look at Russell Westbrook, Anthony Davis. I mean, he's been killing it over in New Orleans. I mean, he doesn't really have the supporting cast, and that might play a big part in it. Because I mean, you look at the MVP, it's really a guy that can lead their team to a great achievement. So I mean, he might be out of that category just in that sense that the Pelicans might not be good enough to make it. But I mean, really, Josh, looking up and down this roster, I mean, you could kind of pick anyone. James Harden, he's been the triple-double machine along with Russell Westbrook this year as well. And I mean, you got Steph Curry and Kevin Durant, who are averaging 27 and 26 points a game respectively, and they're on the same team. along with Draymond Green and Klay Thompson. So, I mean, I think they're really going to look at that one player that really makes the biggest difference on the team, and I think at the end of the year it will be Russell Westbrook, especially if he can lead the Thunder to a great record. And I mean, right now they're kind of right in the thick of things, right in the middle of the Western Conference, and I mean, regardless of the record, Josh, if they make it to the playoffs, they're not going to be a team that you want to play at all just because Russell Westbrook and everything that he can do.
Well, I agree to disagree, because I believe Russell Westbrook as a player is probably as dynamic as we've ever seen. His speed is unprecedented, but to me, he's a shot hog. And, it's easy to fill up stats when you have a team of essentially kind of role players just kind of feeding it back to you. It's kind of that old, mid-2000 Kobe, phenomena that we were seeing, just about how a player can take over a game. So Westbrook isn't my player. You can't question his skill set, but I think guys like Anthony Davis, my pick actually is from both ends of the ball, Kawhi Leonard. The guy's the best player on the court defensively every night, and more often than not, he's going to be, probably the best offensive, tool for one of the best offensive teams in the league. And I think it often goes, unsaid about the defensive side of the ball, because you have guys like Kawhi. I think those kind of guys often get snubbed around MVP talk time because simply, it's not as appealing to talk about the defensive side of the ball. But, Kawhi's my guy this year. So we're going to wrap it up here, and that's our show. Thanks for coming and sticking around and talking with us. And Dusty, thanks for being here.
Thanks for having me, Josh. It was a lot of fun.
As always, this is Duhawks Burning Questions. We'll see you later.